Today's podcast is brought to you thanks to my Patreons, Andy Kitchen, Larry Van Mersberg and James Insel, Gavin Ware, Karen Percy, Matthew Powell, James Gould, Toby's Name, Heather Coe, Kevin Spiffer, Ian Brooker, Katie McFadden, Jakey Zipper, Glenn Curtis, Phil Verco, John Hesketh, Michael Page, Oliver Crocker and the Bill Podcast, David Steele, Tim May and the Missing Episodes Podcast, Benjamin Cook and my great friend Andy Futter. Thanks to you all. Hello everyone and welcome to the Peter Purves podcast. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on introductions today, except to say that my guest is an ace performer in every way. You guessed it. Yes, it's Sophie Aldred. Hello, Sophie. Welcome to the show. Now, you're a South London girl, ain't you? You don't sound like one.
No, I don't. Well, Southeast London is a sort of mixed bag, and it includes places like Woolwich and Peckham and Deptford, but it also, and Lewisham, but in the middle of all that, there's Blackheath, which is very posh.
It is. It's lovely.
Yeah, and that's where I'm from.
Oh, it's a very, very nice part. I know South London very well. I've lived in South London a lot. I started off living in Gloucester Road in virtually central London, in Kensington.
Yes.
But I moved out to Battersea. And
yeah, my dad lived there for a while, and my stepmom.
There were nice sort of Victorian villas. It was my first house that I bought, and that was between Wandsworth Common and Clapham Common. So, I mean, it was, it was very busy, but very nice. It was a nice place to live. Travelling, therefore, elsewhere, you went through a lot of South London and you got to know it very well. There was an awful road, which I'm sure you're terribly familiar with, the South Circular.
The South Circular, don't get me started. Yes.
Well, I would like to get you started. I mean, I always said, this is at a time when there was a North Circular Road, which was a sort of road, but it did break up.
Yes.
Lots of traffic lights and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it sort of does. It does what it says on the tin, doesn't it? It's sort of slightly circular.
But the South Circular was just a rambling, shambling mess of roads joined together.
I agree. No, Blackheath was a lovely place to grow up because there's again, it does what it says on the tin. There's a big heath, which people erroneously think that the plague victims were buried under there, and that's why it's called Blackheath. But it's actually, comes from Bleakheath, which
does it? I didn't know that.
Because it's quite high up.
Yes.
And you know, the A2 passes it, so all the traffic from Canterbury, you know, the pilgrims used to use that road.
It's the main road, yes.
And then you've got Wat Tyler's Mound as well. Wat Tyler rabble roused on Blackheath many, many years ago. But I was very lucky. I was really lucky. And I was brought up in a lovely sort of cul-de-sac, which was very safe, with a lot of other children around. And we used to play together outside, you know, pretty much in the street or on the drives. And I'm still in touch with my very best friend.
Really? That's nice. I know a friend from childhood, literally.
Yeah. She was my first best friend. She's called Kitty Mackenzie.
Oh, bless.
She lives in Edinburgh now, and she runs this amazing place called the Scottish Textiles Workshop, which is encouraging Scottish makers and craftspeople to do what they do. And so she goes around and gets yarns and designers, real Scottish stuff, the proper stuff, not the rubbish stuff you get on the Royal Mile, which has all come from China, but the sort of real. I'm very proud of her.
Yeah, I love Scotland, very fond of it. I'm sort of Scottish. My family come from the borders, from Berwickshire. Yeah.
Yes.
That's where the Purves name, spelt my way, is quite well known. There are a lot of Purveses up there. There's even a Purves Manor It was a baronetcy at one time. I believe it was sold before the 1900s, in the late 1890s. It and got rid of. But it's quite a well-known name up there.
Oh,
you
lovely.
you didn't study there. You went to
No, I didn't.
Manchester Drama School, didn't you?
Yes. Well, I thought I was going to go to Manchester, to Edinburgh, interesting enough, where my son now lives. My head mistress had taught at the university, and she said, "Oh, Sophie, you like acting. Why don't you go to Edinburgh and do a 4-year English course? Because then you'll be able to go to the Edinburgh Festival." And I said, yes, okay then, because I didn't know anything about acting really. I went to this posh girls' day school, and I loved acting, and I'd always done it, and that's what I was kind of known for.
I was going to ask you, is there any history of the theatre in your family?
No.
No.
None. There was, I mean, my family always, especially on my father's side, used to gather around the piano and sing like they used to in them days. And my mother's family, I think sort of a couple of generations back, one ran a music hall in Ilkeston in Derbyshire. So maybe it's a throwback to that.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, otherwise, I just had a passion for it from when I was very young.
Yes.
And just never looked back really. Just did all the school plays. If I couldn't be in the plays, I'd write adaptations myself and put them on. And age 5, we've got a little photo of me bossing all the older children around in the neighbourhood and giving them all parts. And my younger brother always had to be in them, of course. Anyway, no, it's not a family thing at all. But, you know, by the time I got to sixth form, I decided that was what I was going to do. And I did audition for drama schools in London. But I mean, I was 17 because I'm a late August birthday. Did you know my birthday's on the same day as Sylvester?
No, really?
Wow,
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yes, extraordinary.
Yeah. And my mum, and Anthony Ainley, who was the master in Doctor Who for a while.
Wow,
anyway,
incredible.
So yes, I was very young, and I went to all these drama schools. I looked about, 12 probably.
You still do.
And they all just said, "Oh, thank you. Thank you so much." They all just said to me, "Go and experience a bit of life." You know, I'd had this kind of cosseted childhood in Blackheath. I was sort of upper middle class, never really been anywhere or done anything. And so, apart from had my heart broken, which was really useful for acting, isn't it? When you get things like that happen to you.
If you need to cry, you just remember something that hurt you, and you can.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then, and then I went up to Edinburgh. It was February 1980. It was so cold that I just thought, I cannot stay here for 4 years. Also, I realised from meeting other people there that it would have just been more of the same, you know, sort of posh girls and boys. I'm sure there were people who weren't, you know, sort of upper middle class and upwards. But I just thought, no, this is not right for me somehow.
Yes.
So I put Manchester second, and they gave me an interview, or even third, actually. And I remember getting the train up to Manchester, getting off the train at Piccadilly station. It was drizzling, plus ça change in Manchester. I got in a cab down the Oxford Road, arrived at the drama department, and I just thought, I found my place. This is where I want to come.
Yes, yeah.
So I did a 3-year degree in drama, and met some wonderful people. A lot of comedians actually went to the university at that point. Yeah. And I was in every play I possibly could be in. I was very shy at the time, would you believe?
I believe that.
Yeah. People say to me now, "Oh, we remember you on sort of the first day and you didn't really say anything except, 'I'm going to be an actress,' you know." Yeah, and that was it.
It's a big decision to make. And what did your parents think about it? Did they think this was a good career move? I mean, often uh, people who go into the acting, their parents have often said, "Well, I think this is the daftest thing you could ever do, and I'm not going to support you."
I don't think it mattered what they thought, really. I didn't
No.
really notice. Apparently, years later, my dad tells me that, well, actually, I do remember this. He would have loved me to have gone to Oxford, like he did. He came from a very poor background in South Derbyshire, and he educated himself through public school, and then he got into Oxford.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was clever enough because I was in an amazing class with some very bright women who were, I mean, they were just incredible. And some of them did go on to Oxford and Cambridge, and
Yes.
one got
Yeah.
one got a double first, and one got this, and one got that.
Yeah.
So I was in a cohort of very bright people. So I always thought I was stupid. Anyway, my dad took me down to Oxford to meet a friend of his who was a Don, and said, what do you think? And she read some of my essays and looked at some of my work. Can't remember much about it except having a picnic in her garden. And then she said, well, yes, she could definitely get into Oxford. This was to do French, would you believe? And then on the way home, apparently, and I don't remember this at all, my dad said, what do you think? And I said, Daddy, if you think for 1 minute that I'm going to Oxford, you've got another think coming. I'm going to be an actress and I'm going to do drama.
Brave, tough.
I don't remember that at all, but there you go.
Yes. Well, it's probably true if they're telling you that you're
Yeah.
remembering something which was quite a big
Yes.
moment when you were making an incredible decision.
Yes.
No doubt you're happy that you did and where it led to. How did your career start after that? Having been to a sort of drama school university, if you like, how did you get into actually performing elsewhere? Because often, with most people who go to university and they get a degree in something, they often never work again in the area that they want to. So how did you make it work for you? You obviously were very determined, I think.
Yeah, I think I just was single-minded, I think.
Yeah.
I just knew what I wanted to do. And it was interesting going to university because it wasn't at all a drama school. It was very academic. Funny enough, Toby Haydoke, who you and I both know well,
Yes.
he did the same course, and we had
Oh,
the
did
same
you? Yeah.
few of the same lecturers. He was there after me because he's a lot younger. But I don't know. There were opportunities there to perform a lot if you wanted to. The students would just do productions all the time.
Exactly. I mean, it is a very rich area and it surrounds places like Oldham and all the rest where there was good
Yeah.
theatre going on, as well as Manchester having a number of good theatres itself.
Well, I thought, right, how am I going to do this? Because there were people there equally as talented as me, as, that anyone could have done it. But I seem to have got some kind of a sort of business brain or a sort of organised brain that can think about how I could do the next step.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I've got to get an equity card. And of course, in those days, you couldn't work unless you got an equity card. And then you couldn't get an equity card unless you worked. That catch-22.
Catch-22, I know.
So, yeah, exactly. So I came back to London after I finished my degree and stayed at my mum's. And I looked through the pages of, do you remember the Stage newspaper?
Oh, yes.
And it had, small ads at the back. And I looked at a few of those, and there was one which was advertising a panto. And it was it turned out to be an equity blacklisted company because they weren't paying enough. And it was a real experience because I went for the audition, and we rehearsed in Plaistow Boys Club. And I think that the guy who ran it was obviously a bit of a crook who was doing this sort of little job on the side. And he had this bright idea to rehearse 5 companies doing the same script, send them off in a van with all the same costumes. We were doing Goldilocks and Three Bears. And we went to working men's clubs and performed there.
Yeah.
Now, I'd never heard of working men's clubs. So this was a real eye-opener for me. And I went to the Northeast because it was a longer contract than anywhere else. And I played Baby Bear, the villain's assistant, and I drove the van. And I put up the PA equipment.
Oh, you're invaluable.
And that was unbelievable. And it was an amazing experience, actually. There were 4 or 5 of us in the cast, and we were in this little hut that we hired, and the guy would come up every week to give us our brown envelopes with the cash in, all very dodgy. And anyway, I discovered working men's clubs, and I thought to myself, hang on a minute, I can sing. Why don't I, and there was another guy in the cast called Paul, why don't we set up this singing duo and get our equity cards through the variety door, singing in working men's clubs? So when we finished that contract, I sort of sorted it all out, went back to Manchester and stayed with a friend, rang up from the phone book all these concert secretaries at various working men's clubs all around Manchester.
Yeah.
And this guy, in the end, he didn't want to do it anymore. But I found another guy called Paul, luckily, who was at the university the year below me, and he quite fancied doing it. So we went round working men's clubs, singing Everly Brothers numbers and sort of 50s and 60s songs, dressed in 50s gear. And eventually we got some contracts together. And I sort of took them into equity in Manchester. Thought, gosh, this is going to be really hard. And lo and behold, they gave us our cards.
Excellent.
We couldn't believe it.
But that was very...
So, yeah, that's how I got my card.
Well, it's very proactive of you to do all that. How long did you keep up the singing? I mean, was it something that lasted for several years or months or just a few weeks?
We've sang in the clubs for a few months.
And at that point, we lost contact for a moment, but it sorted itself out reasonably quickly. And so it's my broadband at this end. It's terrible. But
that's a shame.
I mean, I won't tell you how little they offer me. It's so small that EE have actually cancelled my contract, not to supply me, but they're not charging me because it doesn't work very well. We're right at the end, at the most distant part from an exchange that it could be, and we're not on fibre, and it does break up.
Yes.
But if it's working again now, let's pick that up again. So as far as the singing was concerned, did you carry that on for months, weeks, a year?
Well, in the working men's clubs, it was probably a few months, actually. And then I've never really stopped, because then the first proper job I got when I got back with my provisional equity card in hand, again from the back of the stage, was with a children's theatre company in Hackney called Theatre of the Thelema, now called Quicksilver Children's Theatre Company.
Yeah.
And it was a singing, it was going around schools and sort of a bit like TIE, Theatre and Education.
Yes, yeah.
And then I did a year with them in all over London and actually beyond. And I played a little girl called Viva Chevette who drove... Did I drive my granny's car? Was she a little girl? No, maybe she wasn't little. Anyway, I had a puppet on my arm. I had a bit like Rod Hull's emu, and it kept
but not so vicious.
Going off, and not quite so vicious, but it had a mind of its own. Yeah. So I had to learn to do all that stuff, separate it. I'm doing it as we speak, separating my arm from the rest of my body. But that involved a lot of singing. And then the roles that I got after that continued with the singing. And then, in fact, when I got to be a children's presenter, I ended up doing a lot of singing there as well.
Let's move it on a little bit. How did Ace come about? She's become possibly you I don't mean that exactly, but she is possibly the most important part of your life now. You're involved with doing podcasts, like I'm doing podcasts, and the Ace Odyssey is now well established. How did that?
Well, I was actually in Manchester again. And by this time I'd graduated from children's theatre, and I was doing Fiddler on the Roof in Manchester at the Opera House with Topol.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd done the role Tevye in the film. And I was back row of the chorus. I'd gone to an open audition. My agent had sent me along to an open audition, and to my great shock and surprise, I got this part in to play back row of the chorus, but also to understudy Hoddle, the second daughter down, who sings "Far from the Home I Love," who's lovely song. So yeah, that was my kind of first foray into musical theatre, and that's where I sort of thought I was heading, possibly, although I don't dance, so that would have been, I mean, I can follow a choreographer.
Only a double threat, not a triple one.
Yes, and I can follow choreography, and I love dancing now, but I'm not a trained dancer, shall we say. And my agent, again, put me up for 3 episodes of Doctor Who. And we'd been talking about Doctor Who a bit because John Scott Martin, who you may know.
I remember John Scott Martin was one of our 4 regular Daleks.
There you go. Well, we were sort of teasing him about his Doctor Who past and stuff. And he was playing the rabbi in our Fiddler on the Roof. Anyway, I got this audition. You had to, at the time, go and do a piece. So one of the people in the cast, she did a lot of drama teaching. So she went through my piece with me, which was Daisy Pulls It Off, a bit of Daisy Pulls It Off, which I then ended up doing later at Theatre Clwyd. Anyway, I went down to London to do this audition, moaning because I had to go peak time because I had to get back up in time to do the performance in the evening.
Yeah.
So it's very expensive being on equity minimum in the back row of the chorus. And I was sitting in Union House in Shepherd's Bush, which was one of the BBC office buildings. And they gave me this bit of script. And it was a monologue. And I just remember thinking, gosh, I really get this. It was really a funny feeling. Yeah. Anyway, went to meet the director up in an office full of chairs. He said, "Oh, could you do your piece for me?" I mean, it's so bizarre, isn't it? Standing in an office full of chairs, doing a speech from Daisy Pulls It Off to no one, you know. And then he asked me to read the script, and then we had a chat. And it was to play a 16-year-old, and I was 24 at the time. And on the way home, I thought to myself, oh, that was silly. I ended up talking about the state of children's theatre in Britain and politics. And I thought, gosh, a 16-year-old wouldn't be talking like that. Anyway, got back in time, did the performance, and then didn't think anything of it. Because, you know, you audition, don't you? And you sometimes hear something, sometimes don't hear something. Most of the time, you don't hear anything at all. 2 weeks later, my agent called and left me a message at the stage door saying they want you to do a recall. And of course, my first reaction was, oh no, not another train fare. So I travelled down again, and this time I was shown into this amazing office at Union House.
Oh right,
which was painted bright red, and it was John Nathan Turner, the producer's office. And he had a big display case full of merchandise, including Tom Baker underpants, with... And I sat there, and he sat behind his desk smoking away, as he did. And he asked me to go through that speech that I'd done before. And then he gave me a couple of notes, and I did it again. And that was it. I mean, I was in there for 10 minutes. Got back on the train thinking, well, that was a complete waste of time. Anyway, another 2 weeks went by. And I get to the stage door at the Opera House, and all over the notice board, there's messages from my agent saying, call me, call me, call me. But it's the half, so I need to get ready and get on. So we did that, tradition, the first number, came back, and there was first in the queue at the phone box at the stage door, with my pile of 10p's, putting them in. And I called my agent at home, and she said, you've got the part. She said, you've got the part, but it's a lot more complicated than that. Let me ring you back. And beep, 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 beep. Anyway, she rang me back and she said, they want you for these 3 episodes, but they might also want you for being the companion if Bonnie Langford leaves. Would you be up for that? And I looked at myself in my kind of chorus rags and, on equity minimum, being offered one of the sort of best roles for a young person in children's, BBC TV at the time. And a bit like you, I was completely gobsmacked, I came out of the phone box and the first person in the queue waiting for the phone was John Scott Martin. Oh. And I said to John, I've got the part. And he reached inside his costume and he pulled out a BBC publicity photo with 3 Daleks on. And he handed it to me. And I said, how did you know? And he said, I just had a feeling. And I turned it over and it said, Dear Sophie, welcome to the family. You will not be exterminated.
Oh, nice.
And it was so sweet. And then the very next scene was a scene called the gossip scene in Fiddler on the Roof, which is where the villagers all rush on and they're all chatting about this new sewing machine. Anyway, everyone rushed on stage and was going, have you heard Sophie's got the part in Doctor Who? Sophie's got the part. So there was all this excited whispering going on. And then Topol entered from upstage left, walked downstage, and he was meant to have a conversation with one of the people in the chorus about this sewing machine. Anyway, he stopped, looked at us, walked across, found me, threw his arms around me and said, well done, Sophie. And then walked back across the stage and carried on with the show. Oh. So what the audience must have thought, I don't know.
Yes, yeah, but that's brilliant.
But it was extraordinary because I'd never been in a TV studio. I'd had no screen test. It was just a hunch by John Nathan Turner that I was right for that part of Ace.
Well, so it proved. I mean, Ace has become one of the most popular of the companions, and you certainly have that charisma and element of excitement about you when you attend various conventions. I've got to say that, it's lovely to see. And the thing that because you came to it quite late, well, in terms of the classic era, very late, because you were the last of the companions and the last of the show. It could have gone away forever at that point. But you made her extremely popular and very exciting. And your knowledge of Doctor Who, apart from Toby Haydock, is probably as good as that.
No.
Well,
I would not dare to even ride on his coattails, Toby.
Every time I've been with you when we've had to take part in the entertainment at a convention like Phantom Films or something like that.
Oh, yes.
And you're often the team leader. Well, I know nothing. I mean, I really don't. I don't remember any of the titles. I didn't even know all the episodes in a serial had individual titles. I didn't know that. You know the titles. You know all the people. It really is quite extraordinary. I did a podcast with Wendy Padbury very recently. And I did say to her she had tremendous knowledge, and she scoffed.
I think so.
Sophie's the one. And of course, I realise you are.
Well, I think, yes, Sylvester says I'm a Doctor Who fan now. But it's funny because I think it's just been through osmosis and interest as well, because I recently coined the term for myself, which is I'm the fan's fan. I feel like that I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who fans, And although I haven't watched that much in a way of the programme itself, but I love the community, the sort of safety that people find. I love the way that Doctor Who fans have found something that lights them up, that is their passion, that is wholesome, I suppose, but it's a sort of safe space for them to express themselves. And I just love the whole idea of this fandom. I think it's brilliant. And I think through the fans, I've learnt an awful lot about the programme.
Yes, I should have, but I forget. I mean, you've talked in the past about my memory and recall and detail of things. I remember things from the past really very well. Maybe it's continual talking about it that makes you remember it.
I think that's it, because let's face it, I've never been away from it. Since we finished in 1989, we very soon afterwards, Sylvester and I started to do audios, and then Big Finish was born. And then we all met each other, all the other companions and the conventions. So it's been such a big part of my life for such a long time. I'm sure you're right that it is continually talking about it that helps that memory.
Yes. Yeah, my short-term memory is very poor now. And so if I pick up some information 2 or 3 days ago, I may be asked about it and I would not remember it necessarily.
Yes.
I mean, maybe I've got too much in there. It just refuses to give it space. But I don't know. My long-term memory, as I say, lots of repetition. I think, yes, you can tell the same stories. It's interesting the number of times that one has to describe things and tell stories about one's past. And because the question is phrased slightly differently from the last time you answered it, your answer is different.
Yes, that's right.
You get different nuances from things and everything else. And I enjoy that. I quite like finding new things out about things that I know very well. It's something, that occurs to me. I've never thought of that before.
Yes.
So I don't know if you find it the same, but I enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like doing sort of takes as well, isn't it? If you've got to do lots of takes.
I don't know about that. Mine are always live.
Of something. Oh no, because that's right. Because you're Mr. Live, mind you. I've had live experience as well, and I enjoy that too. The sort of the skin of your teeth moments, and are you going to manage to get it all said in the countdown and things?
That's right, and it's all got to be there. And if something goes wrong and you have to start rephrasing things and everything else, and you've still got to resolve your sentences, making sense by the end of it, it's quite a skill.
Yes,
but I think doing a lot of it makes it natural.
Yes.
It just comes to we can end. But there have been a number of glitches on the way, so that Sophie, I mean, I think that we've only touched the iceberg. I don't know how often you've talked about the things that we've talked. I've not heard interviews from you talking about anything very much other than Doctor Who. You've talked about a lot of other things here. And I hope that that's very fresh for listeners, for people listening. But I think that maybe we could do this again.
I'd love to, Peter.
Well, I think there's more we can say, and maybe we can set something up in the next couple of months or something when we can actually have another go. I might even get better broadband then, and that would be very nice.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. Yes, for sure.
Well, so if you'll do me the honour of joining me again in the future, in the not too distant future, I'd love to do another podcast with you.
I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do.
Bless you. Well, that's in the diary. We'll fix a date and we'll do another one as soon as we can. Bless you, Sophie, and thank you very much indeed for today.
Oh, thank you, Peter. It's been lovely.
Lovely to have Sophie on board. We have a lot of lovely ladies who are going to be appearing on my podcast over the next month or so, including Sue Pollard, Sue Cook, and Bonnie Langford. There's a nice collection for you to look forward to. Do remember to like and subscribe if you can. I'd love to see you on my Patreon page sometime soon. But in the meantime, till the next Peter Purves podcast, Adieu.